This is obviously the London Meetup, and I'm here to talk about real-time segmentation. So first question is, see that there's an actual animation. We can see this because we're in real life now. It's amazing. What are real-time segments? Now, obviously, Andy's done a great job talking about getting data into the Optimizely data platform. So hopefully we feel more comfortable what the Optimizely data platform is. But there is a new capability coming, and it's an early access program, and we have some charter customers who've been using this already, and it's called real-time segments. So real-time segments are basically a number of things, and they are, first of all, the ability to collect the data. And again, the important thing here is that real-time segments operate on any data in the last 30 days. So they're not the calculated segments that Andy's just been talking about, which you can use for reporting and activation. This is for real-time activation on your site. So if you're thinking about personalization, experimentation. And again, you can create a real-time segment based on anything that you like, including customer attributes or anything about the data you're collecting. So again, as Andy showed just now, you can collect any data that you want, any event, any customer attribute, you can extend those things. And importantly here is that when we're creating the definition of that, we can then build a segment on top of that. Now that's instant. And I say instant, I'm talking milliseconds. So again, within maybe 100 milliseconds or so, all happens at the edge. As soon as you create that definition, it's then accessible. Of course, when it comes to then accessibility, you can access that. Now again, we're in a room full of hopefully happy room. Here's GraphQL. Again, you can access that. Is someone in that particular segment? What are the that are available? And again, what is actually the segments for that specific visitor? And we'll have a little look at that in the UI as well. And then finally, extensibility as well. Now we are working on this. Again, they are available in visitor groups. Andy's been working on a package for that already, and we're going to be collaborating on that. And also we're working on pre-built integration with experimentation. So I'll show you kind of what that can look like. The important thing here is that there's no point collecting data if you're not actually activating it in some way. And again, this is where real-time segments really comes into the play. For me, I think it's really interesting because it allows you to immediately act on anything you understand about that customer, no matter where you're learning about that customer from. So again, if I've got something, if I'm online, and for whatever reason, for some reason, something's known about me from some back-end system that goes into my profile, it's immediately activated. So I can come straight back online and know straight about me. So for me, I think that's quite exciting. Now I'm going to go to the demo. Now, I've put this one up. Now, for anybody who knows this, I think that upload speed is actually quite poor. So please bear with me, okay? That's the reason why it's got the little unhappy face up there. So bear with me while we're doing that, and hopefully we're going to be okay. So for the demo, we'll be using Mosey Fashion. And basically what I wanted to show you first of all is that this has got ODP installed, just like Andy showed you just now, so the standard tracking. And what we have is a segment defined that says actually if I viewed more than 3 pages, just going to really make it really obvious. So I can go to the inspiration page, eventually. We can then actually show some pages. And again, we can do that. Now, importantly here is that now I can go and find out about that particular visitor. Now, I'm going to show you something here, and it's not one of my blogs, but it is one of the things that I've done, is actually show you the Optimizely demo helper. So again, I'll put the link up for this later on. But what this allows you to do is basically help you to do your demos. So again, I built this back in the days of Episerver. It's now been extended out for Optimizely. So first of all, you can do is warm up URLs. So again, if you're obviously starting your demo for a particular client, you can warm up some URLs that are configurable. But what we're talking about today is the Optimizely data platform. So again, what you've seen right now is that ODP has learned about me. I've viewed 3 pages in 24 hours. That's based on the segment definition I have defined. So it could view 100 pages, doesn't make any difference. Importantly here is then we can get the viewid as well. So that viewid is basically the bit that's actually using the GraphQL under the hood. So API calls, hopefully we can get away with this. So as you can see right now, what we've got, I'm actually in that audience. So again, against my customer record, so I've got my audience, I'm in the GraphQL, and again, we can then look at the events I've been looking at as well. Now, importantly here is that you can actually get hold of that demo helper. And again, it's just on the Chrome store. It's not public, I'll admit, but again, there's a code coming up later for that. And what this allows you to do then is basically, as you're going through your demo, you can just see, okay, what do I know about my particular customer? And again, based on what Andy was saying earlier, if I go and identify myself as well, I can actually go and get everything about my customer record at that point. And again, that's instant. So again, if we're landing from perhaps a marketing automation campaign with an email and a social link, however it may be, you can identify yourself and it's going to learn everything about you. So again, we're here to talk about real-time segment definitions. So how do they look? So again, you'll be happy to know, again, I'm using Postman. And again, you can actually start to go and get things like all my segments, okay? So again, you're going to spend a lot of time in Postman doing this. Again, there is a UI coming. Again, Dev have promised me that, I won't set a date, but sometime soon, hopefully the next quarter or two, that there's going to be a normal UI for this. Again, we'll sit within ODP. But again, you know, we're in a safe room here. I hope I'm in a safe space. Postman, we're not afraid of that. So is that big enough? Let me see. Okay, make that a little bit bigger. So again, you can go get your segment IDs. I can get a single segment. This is where you can get your definition of that segment. So this is where you can basically go and look at the viewed, these 3 pages, the one we've just looked at. And again, this is where you can start to get your segment, and it gives the definition, brings back all the null references as well. Now, what I thought we can do, we can actually do something real. And again, what I want to understand is someone who's interested in new products, and what does that segment definition look like? So again, what we're going to be able to do is say to someone, if we're coming on to the new product page here, again, how can I identify someone who's had that particular journey, and then how can I actually create a segment to do that? So again, you can do that, and again, I've got the definition of this one here. Oops. Hopefully it's not too small there. But basically the way it works is that you basically have a root condition. Every segment works on a root condition. And then within that, you can then have a number of conditions which form basically the membership of that segment or not. Now again, there's loads of great documentation, so I'm not going to go into detail on this. But again, so you can do a conjunction. So again, in my example, I've got a condition which says actually they have to satisfy all of these conditions in order to be considered a valid member of that particular segment. So in my example, I've got a sequence condition. And as we're going down here, the event type is page view. So again, that's the standard one you'll get. And again, the event page, then again, our new arrivals URL. Now, the important thing here is that this is based on any data you're tracking into ODP. So it can be custom events, custom data, anything you want. And again, and then you can say they have to be unique, the unique path reference, and then within a particular time period, and then a maximum minimum count. Now, sometimes you're not quite sure the data's been tracked or what's been tracked against an event. So actually, I'd recommend using the event inspector. Now, the event inspector, it's great, it's part of the UI. Again, you go straight in, you can pass the GraphQL, and you get the event inspector. And what this then allows you to do is basically see in real time the events that are coming in. So again, in my example, I say, okay, what was I was tracking against the page view, and I can see these things. You can inspect that, see the data that's coming in, and then work out basically the path in order to do that query within the segment. Now, this is a very simple example of a real-time segment. It's pretty simple. To be honest, it's exactly what visitor groups could do, except this is persistent. Now, there's other things we can do where this is actually someone who's abandoned. It's a bit smaller. Yeah, bit of a problem here. Okay, customer's abandoned a product, but basically this is where you can start to do things where within the segment definition, you can do disqualifiers and goals as well. So in my example, I can say, okay, did they have a revenue of over £250? This is basically calculated for us. Again, so that's a customer level attribute. Again, did they actually look at a product? Was that product the product detail view? Was the price more than 100? So we're starting to learn at this point, actually, someone's quite a high value customer. They're actually looking at some high value products. And again, we can then also say, they have to be unique products. We can then actually capture the data on that as well. So again, if we're developing against this, we can start to say, okay, we've abandoned some high value products. What are those products? You can get that back as part of the segment query as well. And again, here we can go down, and then you can do things like goals. So what I actually want is the goal to be, they want to make that purchase. Okay, and then you can do comparisons. This is a timestamp one. This is actually in the documentation, so I'm not going to go through it in detail. But then you can do disqualifiers as well. So you can say, actually, someone is not a member of this segment if they've hit this particular qualification, which is the disqualifier. So in our example, yeah, they've actually looked at the product, they've actually purchased it, they've added it to the cart, they've also seen the product display page. And then actually ultimately placed an order. Because again, if they placed the order, they haven't abandoned that particular product. So the nice thing about this is that beyond some of the standard things we can do, we can start to use the data coming back about the segment to give us reasons why someone was a member of that segment. So in our example here, these are the products they've abandoned. I know now the product someone's been looking at as a result of their journey. So what this does is really kind of democratizes the ability to create these segments. Some of the things are automatically calculated today, and we can do that. And again, the documentation is available. And again, this is the one we've just been looking at. And again, some great documentation. So again, if someone hasn't known this, get this a little bit bigger. So docs.developers.optimizely.com, and it's in the presentation later. And basically, you've got the ability to go to the data platform. And then this is actually all the documentation around the data platform. Today's been migrated away from the previous version. And again, down at the bottom left there, you've got real-time segments. And again, this has got some great documentation. The development teams have collaborated with us internally on this. So Dan Isaacs was one of the blogs referenced earlier. He was collaborating on the team with that. And there's some really good information about this, about the disqualifiers, the goals, and basically really how to get into real-time segments at a really deep level. Because the way I see this, there's going to be two kind of ways of doing it. There's be the standard, more simple stuff, say it that, which will basically be from in UI. And again, there's UI coming for that. Then there's going to be the really advanced stuff that we say, look, you're in JSON mode here, you're in developer territory, you're working with your partners, just to create some really complex stuff that you may or may not be able to do straight as part of the user interface. So I mentioned earlier, we talked about accessing real-time segments and how we can use them. So the important thing here is that actually we can do that in the GraphQL, but we can also then start to use them as well. So again, in the GraphQL, you can query someone's membership of a particular segment. But what I thought we can do, we can have a little bit of fun and show actually how we can start to use these things. So I've actually got a segment here that tracks my search results. So I can search for boots. And again, remember we have zero kilobytes uploading here, so I'm going to wait for this to load. Great. So we've searched for boots, or shoes maybe. And basically what we're doing now, we're tracking all the things I'm searching for, again, as part of a segment. Now what I've learned here is that actually I've searched for shoe, boot, or sneaker. I had to put sneaker in for my American colleagues. They didn't know what I was talking about otherwise. And what we've now also done is actually activated that person for an experiment. So based on what Johnny was talking about earlier, you say, actually, if someone's exhibited a particular behavior, I want them now to be eligible for experimentation. So I don't want to just bucket this to everyone. So I can now actually start to say, okay, what we're doing here is running an experiment. What we can also do is use that in visitor groups as well. So again, here I've actually got searching for shoes. Now, this has all been wired up in the UI. I'm sure we all know how to use visitor groups. But again, what we do have is the ability to go and grab the membership of that segment in as part of a visitor group with our 0 kilobytes uploaded. So here we can go into the data platform. Now, this is basically what we have currently. We're working on ourselves. Again, we want to be able to open source that, but Andy's mentioned he's already working on something similar, where basically all of the segments we've defined that we know about, and these are some of the automatic calculated ones as well, we can do that. So again, here we got shoe, boot, or sneaker. Again, our 3 page views will be in here as well. So I can do that, I can save that. And then that, of course, then allows you to personalize if you want to do so. So again, that's just a simple example of where you can personalize that. Now, again, horse and cart, I would argue that experimentation should inform your personalization strategy. Because again, by experimenting on it, you can prove the value of it before you then make that commitment to personalize on it. It's kind of one of these different ways of looking at that. But again, how this works in experimentation is that you can basically have an audience, which basically allows you to go and pick the membership of that real-time segment. And again, at the moment, we just basically have a window level object, window.odp. We just populate that, use that with a real-time segmentation. It's quick enough to be able to do that. It's built to be real-time, should be millisecond response times. I think I was trying it earlier, it's about 100, which is reasonable enough. And then you can then use that in an experiment. So my experiment here, we're talking about people that are searching for shoes. And again, this is what's called a multi-arm bandit experiment, where you say, I'm not quite sure which experience is going to work best. But again, because someone's been searching for shoes, what's going to entice them to make that purchase further down that line? So in the example here, you can see we have the green bar. We have the ability to do things like free returns, which is going to push that there. And again, obviously the 10% discount, which is the little bar we've had coming in here. So importantly here, when we're talking about sort of real-time segmentation, is that, we talked about real-time definitions. Again, it's an API. I'm sure we're comfortable working as APIs. It should be working very easily. You can access it in GraphQL. So again, it's very nice and easy to work with from a development perspective. Is that the ODP, when you're accessing it, and the GraphQL has 2 keys. There's the private key and the public key. You can access membership of audiences, or sort of real-time segments, using the public key, so you're not exposing any PII. So again, it's nice, safe, and secure, but you can then make decisions in your experience using those things. Again, the Optimizely demo helper, I got a thing up for that one as well. Again, try that. It's a Chrome extension, allows you to, at least when you're telling your stories and your journeys to your customers, again, to show how basically ODP is working behind the scenes, because I've never met a marketer who's happy looking at GraphQL. Maybe we have, I'm not sure. And also, using RTS in real life. We're working on this. We're looking at, putting this into visitor groups. Again, I think Andy's probably saved us a bit of work there. And also the Optimizely web experimentation. There's a pre-built integration coming for that as well. I've seen that in dev, so hopefully that'll be out relatively soon. It just means you can just drag and drop the things in straight into audience definitions. Now, again, something from the pandemic, which I didn't know before, is that, docs.developers.com, this deck will be shared, obviously, is that you can get hold of this deck as well. Again, there's a short URL. There's also a QR code, which the pandemic made a thing, which I'm really surprised at. And also there's the demo helper as well, which again is just there. So again, if anybody does that, it works apparently. So it's amazing. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for listening.
All right, so I've got a question around how you can build out those segments. So one of the limitations that I've found in the visitor groups, which I think's great functionality, as you might know, I'm a big fan of that particular functionality. But one of the limitations is you can't do comparisons. So you can't say, for example, put someone in a visitor group if they've done more of X than Y. Is that something that this tackles? So can you build that kind of a segmentation model?
Yeah, so you can do that as part of a disqualifier. As you say, if someone's perhaps viewed 10 things of X where the value of something is Y, but the disqualifier is if they've done something else, or if they haven't hit their goal, you can do that. So it's built to be real time. It's built to actually give the data back of the reason why as well. So again, I'd be interested to find out the exact case, and we can give it a go. I mean, the documentation exists today. Get some access and try it.
Yeah, sounds good. Can't wait to get my hands on it. Cheers.